Perfect day for the road.
We're just born into the situations we're born into. Like, I've always just had this real fight in me against injustice. I came from a background in my 20s doing a ton of poverty relief overseas. I ended up in this leadership course. It was focused on social justice. You could either read a bunch of books and write papers for master's level sort of certification, or you could go be homeless and beg for $15.
Time goes so fast.
I totally walked down this street. That stigma of being a homeless person, you will feel it every step of the way.
But I won't worry today. Even if time flies away.
There was an immediate recognition like I was a homeless person, and so, people just treated me differently right away. Like, I've never before that and never since been offered drugs by anybody on the street, ever. Like, no one's ever just come up to me and say, hey, you want some drugs? But that day, I got offered 15 times. Second thing was the number of people that I would meet who were homeless that were clearly suffering from a clear mental disability, like an inability to have conversation, to be cognizant, but on the street, on your own, fend for yourself. And then finally, I think how much it took to beg to raise my hand, and the warm generosity you feel when someone gives you a toonie. What we're trying to create in Common Good is this environment that erases the stigma, that says you can come in and be real about what you've been going through.
Calgary, just one of 24 communities throughout southern Alberta that remains under siege from Mother Nature tonight.
There's absolute devastation for many communities.
Entire neighborhoods and towns have been swallowed up by the rising waters.
If you have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. The Bow River looks like an ocean.
Holy there it is.
And within hours, we're talking hours, it went from here to, it was going over that bridge, and then subsequently over and flooding our house.
I was knee deep, my cat in my purse, and our family, we were walking out of our house. For us, we had an outpouring of support. We had 14 people show up into our house, complete strangers, pulling out all this flood water stuff. We had people donating money. Like, we had a safety net that was just oddly built in, I believe, because we were middle class. And it hit me hard then, where I was like, oh, wow, we don't activate our communities in the same way when it comes down to homelessness. We have people in our city every day that live without a home, and we do not react in the same way.
We've been in a constant strategic communication around how to build Common Good from day one. When Hannah and I met on our first date, she said, you got 45 minutes and I got to run after that. And so we showed up, started chatting. Like 4.5, 5 hours later, we shut down the place. And 80% of the time we talked about business. There's one thing I think that both Hannah and I know of each other is that we have each other's back, no matter what. For me, taking the two of being able to do social justice work and do entrepreneurial work together and try to be innovative about it and affect change. That drives me.
After the Calgary flood, we went and volunteered at the local homeless shelter. And we kept on hearing the same thing over and over from the people living there. They were taking courses, they were talking to the social service agencies, they were doing everything that they needed to do and what they were told to get out of that system. But the one thing that we kept on hearing was like, no one will take a chance on me. No one will give me a job. Then if no one's gonna give you a shot, like what do you do next?
So when we first got into Common Good, we were like, okay, people don't have an ID, they don't have a bank account. So we wanted to look at like, how could we remove those barriers? And we really thought, oh, if that's the problem, we could create that solution with a business model.
When we first launched Common Good, it was, Booster in June 2016. We were full of hope, we were full of excitement for what was happening, and the community was jumping on board, and it was just a very, very exciting time for Common Good.
We are a mission-driven business focused on hiring and assisting people living in our homeless shelters. We care about our community, so we've partnered strongly with the Calgary Drop-In Center to offer meaningful employment at a living wage. There are over 3,000 restaurants in Calgary, and Common Good is well on its way to our first 50 restaurants. That means that this year we're going to be able to provide 10,000 hours of living wage income.
So I just remember just this overwhelming rush of support really quickly, and winning the Booster live pitch competition.
Very, very pleased to announce that Common Good is the winner tonight.
Everything just really, really cascaded quickly.
We just won Booster, so we're very, very excited about that.
We got our first customers, and we were operating out of the basement of the drop-in shelter with their 3 washing machines and 3 dryers. And we were delivering in Hannah's minivan. We always knew we had to scale it to make it succeed. What that scale looked like and what the actual model looked like has changed quite a bit. It probably wasn't until, say, 3-4 months of deep operations in when we started, when we sort of had our first employee, just no-show and kind of disappear for a week, where we were like, whoa, okay, now what's this? Like, thought we had been removing these barriers, and all of a sudden, we're starting to see some of the deeper stuff that just continued to bubble up to the surface after, a season with our guys.
There is no joke, when we started 3 years ago, I was full of hope, and I kind of look back at it as being so naive, because I thought, hey, no job, no bank account, no ID, we can fix that, and not realizing how multi-layered and complicated this can get. People really believe that people have ended up on the streets because they've been addicted to drugs or alcohol. But the truth of the matter is they've gone through incredible trauma somewhere in their life, usually when they're a child or in their teenage years. And it can happen through abuse, mental, emotional, or they've just had a really bad accident or death. And they don't have any of the skills or ability or even the access to counseling or the medication that they need to get through it. And so that's when you start down the road of making different choices, and addiction then comes in. Addiction is merely just a symptom of the deeper trauma that people are facing. There's something that we all have in common. We actually didn't have a choice when we were born. And so when you're born into poverty, the stats show it's really hard to get out. If you're born into middle class, you pretty much stay in middle class. None of that kind of moves in our society, and so those barriers become even deeper for people in poverty.
We lose track of one of our guys regularly. And he's one of the guys that it took him a year and a half of working with us and being in relationship with us before he opened up to being pretty severely abused when he was a child. and never told anybody his whole life, and then disappeared. And this last round, he's been gone for about 3 months. And I reached out to him on Facebook tonight for this documentary, and he got back to me. He talked about how he's not good enough, to be in this documentary. He's not. He looks old. He's still drunk. He's crying, and doesn't deserve to be in it. And that's just the epitome of what we come against with our employees, is that they can present a really good face in the front. Oh, things are so much better, all this is going on, but then just all of a sudden, something will happen. I mean, I can tell the stories of the things that have triggered people, from being bullied in a grocery store. Mom and dad locked me out of the house, won't let me get my stuff. When it happens to one of our employees that have been going through this all their life, all this trauma, all this, and things are finally good, and they feel like they have hope, and then their brother gets shot in the street, and it just tanks them. And the shame is what drives them into isolation. That's the hardest thing that we deal with at Common Good, is getting connected and really hoping for someone. But then they just lose so much hope in themselves that they just can't even face you. That's hard.
The opposite to addiction is not sobriety. The opposite to addiction is community, it's connection. And so we really had to start focusing in, how do we build that into a business? We're really specifically looking at people that have gone through homelessness and poverty, and so they do need additional support. And so we really have to create a nonprofit that runs up alongside our for-profit businesses to help on the job training side, to give them the skills to be able to move beyond Common Good.
Hannah and I knew from being in business in the past that our business network would be really important. There's all kinds of people that have just kind of said, hey, I really believe in what you're doing and I want to help. So I think when you do put your sort of stake in the ground and say this is what we believe in, you also find your tribe out there. You find the people that believe in what you're doing and latch onto that and want to help.
In terms of the business model with Common Good, we entered into a partnership deal with our competitor.
The owner there, came to us and said, why not combine operations? Let me hire your people, bring your program into my plant, but use all of our equipment, all our systems, all our know-how around laundry, and let's do this together. And not only here in Calgary, but we have plants across Canada, so you can do this across Canada. It's been very challenging to try and take a social enterprise with the kind of mission and values that we have and marry that with a very traditional corporate environment. Most of our mental health can be racked up as anxiety disorders, and then put you in a pressure cooker work environment 7 days a week. It does not match. We're kind of breaking at the seams in our current iteration and on many levels.
We have to scale big to make money. And so for us, we're at this really hard point of we either buy our competitor or we die.
From flight cancellations and travel restrictions to warnings of serious economic implications, millions of people are feeling the effects of what's become an international health crisis.
We believe that the risk of a global pandemic is very much upon us.
The supermarkets scrambling to keep up with demand.
Coronavirus has oil below $50 a barrel. U.S. demand in China has dropped off substantially.
Small businesses across the country are struggling to stay afloat.
So Common Good's main customer is restaurants. We literally had, I think the total now is at 15 clients, restaurant clients, close their doors today. So yeah, I feel like Tony does. We have employees, and we're just like in the midst of a pivot, and so friggin' close on lots of things changing.
We lost like pretty much all of our customers. Like we have 6, 7, about roughly deliveries left to do a week right now. So it's about 5% of our revenue normally.
Our business literally changed overnight. In less than 36 hours, we lost 75% of our customers. The restaurants are closing down indefinitely under this. And then we expect that by the end of this week, we would be almost all of our customers down. And so that's just 72 hours.
Common Good is finished on that level. Like we are closing Common Good.
It's just been devastating. 24 hours ago, I thought my business was over. And now I see so much hope and entrepreneurs coming together and people asking questions about how we can help each other in different and new ways. And I have always said that collaboration is the new competition and that we are in this together. That was the first hashtag that Common Good ever used 4 years ago, was hashtag in it together. And at this moment, I am truly feeling it.
They're often the forgotten population, those experiencing homelessness. So while we might be able to self-isolate at home, these folks don't really have a choice.
Dealing with people living with homelessness is the greatest public health issue that we're facing today. So it's really important that we move very quickly to protect people in that population.
Can you show me if the season is ending? Is this hardship surrender? Though this curtain see, can you show me if the season is ending? Is this hardship surrender? Throw this curtain see, like the start of a new year, like fountains spraying their water, like a mother or father. Oh, to see you, if my eyes were set on you, and I would do my best.